Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, the 2023 drought hits Mississippi farmers right where it hurts. Not only is the dry weather ruining some key crops, the Mississippi River itself is giving grief to farmers and other shippers.
So it's a double whammy, literally a double whammy when you think about our impact to farmers.
Agriculture and Commerce Secretary Andy Gipson is with us to talk about that, the state fair, and more. Also, where does Mississippi delegation stand on shutting down the government? That's all ahead this Sunday on Mississippi Insight. There's always a lot to talk about with Agriculture and Commerce Commissioner Andy Gipson, and this morning we're going to discuss a real problem impacting agricultural producers and consumers alike. Our state is witnessing some of the driest conditions on record. Vast areas of Mississippi remain in severe, extreme, or exceptional drought, and the federal government estimates 75% of our topsoil moisture was short or vastly short. That's very bad news for farmers and ranchers alike, and just as agricultural producers plan to get much of their product downriver to market, the Mississippi River is at critical low levels. And that puts a bottleneck squarely in the path of farmers and their markets, just as they're trying to make the best out of a rough growing season. With those grim tidings, we nonetheless welcome Commissioner Andy Gipson and back to Mississippi Insight. Commissioner, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back, Byron.
Always good to have you. From your perspective, how has the drought affected the Mississippi sector when it comes to agriculture this year?
It's been a tremendous effect. And you know, we lived through this a little bit last year, about this same time of year. I remember during the state fair last year, the river has begun to dry up. It got down to some seriously low levels. What we have this year, though, that we did not have last year was this very significant drought, an extraordinary drought that has impacted about 98% of the state of Mississippi. So at a time when harvest is coming in, when farmers are harvesting their crops, a lot of those crops didn't make because of the drought, but for those who have the irrigation to keep the crops growing, we have the river going dry again. So it's a double whammy, literally a double whammy when you think about our impact to farmers. And we always need to thank our farmers, but especially thank them during times like these.
Is there any particular crop that's been affected more than another?
Yeah, I hear that, well, soybeans in particular. And see, corn makes earlier than most of the crops, and we had a really good corn crop this year. People made corn, and it was harvested in earlier in the summer, just July and even August. And then when this drought began to set in, soybeans, which would be maturing this time of year, they just didn't mature. So a lot of those beans, I mean a lot of them have actually been baled for hay, just to save the forage off of the soybeans, not getting any beans themselves. Those have been impacted. Cotton may be impacted. I've seen a lot of fields of cotton where the bolls just dried up and fell off instead of opening up. So that's been impacted. And of course, our livestock producers, above a lot of other situations, livestock producers who have no grass to feed their animals in this drought, and then the hay that should have been made didn't make during the drought. So there's a hay shortage that we're dealing with. I started haying my cows back in August, as a matter of fact, and a lot of cattlemen have had to sell their animals due to the lack of forage. So it's a really serious condition right now.
Is this why we're seeing a big sell-off in livestock at this point?
That's exactly why. We had, for example, Tadlock Stockyards over in Forest. They sold 3,000 head in one day this past Monday, and they were selling those animals all the way through midnight. I mean, it went into the next day. There's so many. You've got to, as a farmer, you've got to think, am I going to be able to feed these animals through the winter? And without a sufficient hay supply, the question sometimes is, we just can't take that risk. We want to take care of our animals, but a lot of farmers are selling out. I encourage everyone, though, to get back in, because we need every farmer that we have farming in Mississippi. We do know there are programs to help. A lot of the farmers who had crop losses do have crop insurance, so that's a help right off the bat. The Farm Service Agency has been implementing disaster relief programs for folks who might need low interest loans to make it through, to keep farming. And then our livestock producers have access to what's called the Livestock Forage Program. All those are available at your local Farm Service Agency. So if you're in that 90% of the state that's been impacted by the drought, I highly encourage you, or even if you haven't yet, go ahead and visit your local Farm Service Agency. They have a lot of great resources for you.
How are you coordinating with other states to help farmers and ranchers, particularly when it comes to other states or federal government?
Well, for one thing, we're looking for hay. We talked about the hay shortage. This drought is extending all the way across Louisiana, from Mississippi to Louisiana, across Texas, up the Mississippi River, and across the northern part of the country. So it's a nationwide impact. And the drought map that was released just this past week shows you that. What we're coordinating with other states is where can we find hay, who has hay. And for the last 2 years, we've been shipping Mississippi hay, excess hay, to Texas to help them. Now we're looking for it from some of our neighboring states. I just got back from a 50-state ag convention, and that's exactly what we were talking about, coordinating who has hay supplies nearby so we can help get our livestock through the winter.
And what's the impact on food supply, not only in Mississippi, but across the nation that we're going to feel here?
Well, we've already seen the high prices. Everything has gone up because of these shortages, because of the supply chain challenges that we've had, and even because of the river going dry. That has been a big impact. But I think what we can see is we're going to have food. Don't panic about that. America is the leader in the world in food production. Mississippi is also. But I think the supplies are going to be tighter, and as a result, prices, unfortunately, may go up again. As bad as we hate to think about that, it's all about supply and demand. So we have less soybean protein this year. That's going to make the prices of beans go high, which goes into the price of everything that's manufactured with soybeans. So food is going to be available, but it may cost more.
When we have a drought like this, what's the long-term effect to farmers and ranchers, and how long will we feel the impact of all this?
Well, it's affecting the soil in a way that you might not think about, because on my farm, for example, it hadn't rained. We got a good rain this past week, but before that, the soil was just a pile of dust about that thick. And so with wind blows, it can erode, it can wash away, when a rain does come, I notice on my farm, a lot of that dust, instead of going back into mud or being compacted, it washed down the hill. So that erosion is an impact. Also, concerned about pastures. The pastures, some of them are so severely damaged, we wonder if they will come back in the spring, and we may not know till the spring. So we may face another hay situation next year. But I think overall, farmers are resilient people, and we know about these challenges. Farmers, for the most part, anticipate challenges, deal with them, and we're going to get through this, and we will persevere. And that's what it's about, is making up our mind to keep going, to put one foot in front of the other, and we'll get through this situation. One possible bright side, it's not too late to plant ryegrass, winter grazing for cows, for example. So if we begin to get some rainfall, we'll be able to put some seeds in the ground and get some winter forage growing. And farmers, row crop farmers can plant cover crops to help preserve that soil during the winter.
What strategies can consumers adopt to combat the shortages and also inflation?
Well, you know, I always tell people, don't panic buy. When people panic buy, it drives everything up beyond reason. But I do think if you find a good deal on something, put it back, put it in the pantry, put it in a closet somewhere, put your canned goods back, and that just helps take the pressure off. And we're going to build back our supplies. I do think it highlights the need, something I've been talking about, to rebuild our food supply infrastructure locally in Mississippi, our agriculture, food product storage capability, cold storage, canning facilities, and I hope the legislature will listen to those concerns as they come back in January. I think we need to rebuild our local food supply chains in a way to guard and protect against the risk of future droughts, future supply chain interruptions, and future food shortages. We need to act on it today.
We'll have more with Commissioner Andy Gipson when Mississippi Insight continues. Mississippi is ready to have a good time. You've offered a preview of the state fair coming up. What are you doing to make sure that's going to be an enjoyable and a safe environment?
Well, we want a safe and a clean and a fun, family-friendly state fair. And so we have cleaned up the fairgrounds. If people drive by, they'll notice how clean and nice it is. And our goal is every morning of the fair to make sure it's just as clean as it was on opening day. We don't want trash blowing around. We have people out there picking that up. Safety and security is a big deal. We are doing the exact same types of security measures that we put in place last year, which was forming a coalition of law enforcement agencies from JPD to Hines SO to the Department of Public Safety, state troopers, Capitol Police, and every other state law enforcement agency in Mississippi. They've come to the table and said, we want to be a part of helping keep Mississippians safe. The fairgrounds will be the safest place in Mississippi October 5th through the 15th. So people can come out, bring your family. I'm going to be there personally with my wife and our 4 children. So I take that seriously, and I know it's a safe place because I'll be there myself. And I invite everybody to come out and enjoy it. The rides, the food, the fun, the livestock shows. That's what the fair all began as a 4-H and FFA livestock show, agricultural showpiece for Mississippi.
What are the highlights and the attractions going to this year? Some new attractions this year?
We do. We have 2 really big new attractions. One is, for the first time ever, we're going to have the American Idol competitions on the state fairgrounds. We've had about 400 contestants sign up to compete to be the next American Idol, and we'll have those competitions in the Mississippi Coliseum October 9th and 10th. And then every day of the fair, we're bringing a little taste of the Dixie National Rodeo to the fair. There on the Midway by the biscuit booth, the children's area. People can line up with their families and watch a little snippet of rodeo events each and every night, and then twice on the weekends, so on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's going to be combining 2 of our great traditional events in Mississippi into one. And while folks are there, they can enjoy a little bit of the rodeo while they enjoy the state fair. We've never done that before. We hope people will come and have a great time.
How do you evaluate the economic impact of the state fair for the state and for the city of Jackson?
Well, it's huge. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of purchasing. It's a lot of economic development for the state of Mississippi. A lot of visitors who will come here. And even at its lowest point during COVID, the state fair generated $50 million of economic impact, positive economic impact for the state of Mississippi. We expect we'll get near 100 million this year. I think we will have a good fair. I think a lot of people will come out. They're ready to come back out, and we want to get back to those pre-pandemic levels that we saw before 2020.
And those numbers are going to be, what's the pre-pandemic numbers?
Well, you know, I'd love to see another 1 million people come to the state fair. We always have, that we know of, 600, 750,000 people who will come and pay to attend the state fair. I really have a goal to see 1 million people come to the state fair. We'll see if we do it. If we don't try, we'll never get there, but we're trying hard, and we invite everybody to come be a part of this great event.
Earlier this week, you met with partners of the Study Committee on Foreign Purchase Farmland in Mississippi. Over 777,000 acres of land in Mississippi are at least partially controlled by foreign interests, almost all of it's agricultural land. What do Mississippians need to know about that trend that's going on?
Well, it's a disturbing trend nationwide, as we have seen foreign countries come in and begin buying up our farmland in America. It's a nationwide issue, and as we drill down into that on the study committee, we found that in Mississippi already, foreign governments own about 750,000 acres of Mississippi's prime farmland and forest land. So it gives everybody a concern, and that equates to about 2.5% of our farmland in the state. All that's happened under our nose. I think the legislature was wise to create this study committee to research it, to find out what the facts are, to not have a knee-jerk reaction, but then hopefully to pass a policy to make sure we keep American agriculture American. I think it's a simple idea, but I believe all of Mississippi would support that because, you know, we fought a war to have our freedom, to have our independence, to have our land in this country. And if we let foreign governments come in here and buy it out from under us, then we don't own it or control it anymore. It's kind of a backdoor way of taking over our economy. And another reason, agriculture is still Mississippi's #1 piece of our economy. It's our #1 employer. It's our #1 economic driver. So we've got to do what we have to do to safeguard that. And, you know, we're not trying to point fingers or cast blame or aspersions against anyone. We just want to protect our greatest asset, which is our ability to produce our own food and fiber and shelter. And I think the committee is working hard. We'll have recommendations, we hope, by December the 1st. That is our goal, and we're working hard toward that goal.
What countries are basically buying the land?
Well, in Mississippi, the #1 purchaser of land is the Netherlands over in Europe. Which, if you follow the news in Europe, over in the Netherlands, a lot of the farmers have been shut down over there. So apparently they're coming over here, buying up our land as a way to continue to produce food. That's a concern. Germany is another one, Canada, and China is on the list at a very low level, about 1%. But one of the unknowns is, and we're trying to get to this in the committee, is Can some of these countries form a local company, a Mississippi LLC, for example, and then be behind the scenes controlling it? Nobody knows the answer to that, so we've got to be careful how we structure a law to make sure it does protect against that type of activity. I think overall, this is an issue that is of serious concern. About 23 states passed laws on it last year, and Mississippi decided to study it and to make the best practices of all those states to try to come up with the best bill we could to pass a good policy, and I support that.
All right, well, let's not forget that this is an election year and you are the Republican incumbent seeking re-election. You face challenger Robert Bradford in November, and we'll talk with him on the program as well. But what are your goals and priorities as commissioner as you seek re-election?
Well, my goal is always to advocate, to be a strong advocate for Mississippi agriculture, for our farmers, our greatest industry. About 2% of our people in America today are producing food anymore, and that's why farming is more important than ever. That 2% is feeding 100% of us. And so I've adopted an administration, a policy here that is pro-farmer. It is designed about making sure farmers have the right to farm and have the government out of the way of farming. We're pushing back against environmental radical regulations that would stop a lot of farming in our state. And I feel like we've got a great team. We've got a lot of work done, but we have more to do. And for example, cleaning up the fairgrounds has been a big job. It's one of the biggest jobs that we have, and we want to keep it the best it can be for the people of Mississippi. And our team is promoting markets, new markets, shipping Mississippi products around the world. We've expanded markets into India and into the Dominican Republic, shipping our wood products now. We are promoting Mississippi. That's what I'm all about, and I would appreciate and I would really enjoy the opportunity to do it and to do it well for the next 4 years.
That's Republican Andy Gipson running for another term of office as Agriculture and Commerce Secretary. We hope to speak with Democratic candidate Robert Bradford in the weeks to come. Mississippi Insight continues in a moment. As we take this late Friday, it is more and more likely that the federal government is headed for a shutdown. The House voted against the Republicans' continuing resolution on Friday by a vote of 198 to 232. 21 Republicans joined all the Democrats in opposing the stopgap funding bill that would have kept the government running through October. Mississippi Republican Trent Kelly, Michael Guest, and Mike Ezell voted in favor. Democrat Benny Thompson voted against it. Now, barring a breakthrough by 11:59 Saturday night, the government will face a shutdown. 12 News' Richard Lake spoke with Congressman Guest Friday afternoon.
Some members are very principled on the fact that they don't believe that we should be passing any sort of continuing resolution, regardless of whether or not it cuts funding or secures the border. There's others, I think, that may have political reasons not want to pass this, particularly political reasons for their dislike of Speaker McCarthy. So we will try to work through that together as a conference. We will be here throughout the weekend. We will be here next week until the government shutdown is over. I think it's been clear to myself and most members here when we return this week that there would be a government shutdown. The only question is how long will that government shutdown last? And that's something that we'll see over the next several days. This was something that I have expected to be coming for the last several weeks after we really have failed to make significant progress on continued funding. Again, I thought that this plan crafted by the Freedom Caucus, kind of the more conservative members of our caucus in the Main Street, which make up members who are right of center, but not necessarily fall in the category of moderate, that we were going to be able to get widespread support for this. We did see that a large number of our caucus, 90+%, supported this plan with the reduction in spending, with the border security, but we were unable to get this plan across the finish line. We also know that the Senate is currently looking at trying to pass something out of the Senate sometime this weekend, send that over to the House. that bill would have no reduction in spending. There would be nothing in the Senate continuing resolution that would secure the border, and there would also be funding in their plan for continued funding to Ukraine, I think roughly in the amount of approximately $6 billion. That is a non-starter in the House of Representatives. I don't believe, based upon comments that he's made, that Speaker McCarthy will bring the Senate legislation to the floor. And so, you know, at some point, we will have to try to find, again, what's that sweet spot, what's that common ground that we can get something passed out of the House that all Republicans can agree to. And then at some point, we'll have to try to marry that version up with the Senate.
Big thanks to Commissioner Andy Gipson and Congressman Michael Guest for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown from all of us here at 12 News. Make it a great weekend.